Welcome to the Elixir Sessions, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness and innovation. Today we're excited to welcome Jillian Acosta, a registered dietitian specializing in functional medicine and the psychology of eating. As the founder of the Root Cause Method, Jillian empowers her clients to achieve health and vitality. Her innovative use of ketamine therapy helps individuals transform their relationship with food and address the deeper traumas behind the chronic illnesses. Jillian, thanks for joining us today. We're eager to hear about your work with the Root Cause Method and your innovative approach to healing. Can you tell us a little more about the Root Cause Method and how it works?
So the Root Cause Method is a functional nutrition private practice where I believe that the root cause of chronic illness is actually trauma. And so we use psychedelics in this work to really uproot the things that drive our behavior around food and lifestyle and otherwise, instead of just playing whack-a-mole and trying to manage symptoms and change behavior from the conscious mind instead of going into the deep subconscious mind and really uprooting things from there.
What do you see as the relationship between food and psychedelics?
Food is very charged. Food is primal. I mean, it's deeply feminine. It comes from the breast of the mother. It comes from Mother Earth. And a lot of times what I see is that people that have a tendency of emotionally eating, both men and women and everybody, there's typically wounding in the relationship with the mother in childhood, whether the mother wasn't able to nurture emotionally or physically, she wasn't present. Maybe she was dealing with her own whatever, but there's a lack of nurturance. There's a lack of that feeling of comfort and like holding that we tend to reach for food to satiate because it's the closest thing that we can get. And so to unpack that relationship with food, the compulsive drivers behind why we reach for food is just as important to me as supporting them with a healthy protocol or a healthy diet, because I can give you the best dietary protocol for your unique physiology. But if we have this compulsive dynamic with food, it's always going to intervene. It's always going to get in the way. So we got to go to the root. So I support the physiology. I analyze labs and all of those kinds of things. But if we're not addressing the undercurrent of what's driving behavior with food, then it doesn't make sense. It's just half the game.
Why did you choose psychedelics as a path to healing trauma?
Psychedelics goes right to the wound. Psychedelics bypasses the conscious mind and the ego and all the things and goes right into the subconscious. And if you pair this medicine and the opening of certain neural networks that allows you to kind of like retrieve certain memories with all the other work that we're doing supportive-wise and intention, if there's like a clear intention of going into those kinds of things, extrapolating the wounds and then like flushing them out and it's magic. Your physiology can transform once you really shift and transform and heal the things that cause you to drive you to those patterns. So psychedelics have been powerful to help regulate the nervous system, to allow us to access those traumas that cause us to reach for certain types of foods. It just makes sense.
What kind of changes do you observe in clients after psychedelic therapy?
Everything. I mean, biomarkers change because all of a sudden they're not compulsively eating or emotionally eating, and so they're not reaching for the super satiating, kind of crappy, high glycemic food. So biomarkers like triglyceride and fasting glucose and all these other biomarkers begin to change because the patterns that are perpetuating inflammatory status reduce. And so the whole systemic organism goes into a healthier realm.
Can you share an example of your method and how it's applied?
So I have a program running called the Garden, which is a 13-week program designed to really support the unearthing of the trauma that drives our relationship with food while supporting the physiology. The transformations that I see in that program are really astounding. They sit with medicine 3 times over the course of the 13 weeks. There's also the physiology component where I'm analyzing blood chemistry and I'm really supporting the body so that we can dive deep into the undercurrent. And so it's like 3 months, but then the other program that I'm getting ready to launch is Wildflower, which doesn't include medicine or specific labs, but does have the big medicine of group. So it's a sisterhood, group dynamic. It's 8 weeks. It's really potent. And it's all about teaching women how to use their triggers with food, how to use this compulsive energy around food as a way to actually reveal what their needs actually are. And if they, in the process, can learn how to meet those needs themselves, they don't need to reach outside of themselves for anything. So it's how do we use this thing that we've been so frustrated by and so just we wish would just go away. It's actually our ally, signifying to us that there's an unmet need or that there's something they're unwilling to feel, and that we use food to push that down and just kind of try to regulate from a nervous system perspective. And so it's actually of benefit to us to tune in and listen to that, and then realize we don't have to use anything to push it down, and then the body starts to change and weight loss is easy.
I'd love to see how you apply your method. Could you share some examples?
My invitation is to take a deep breath all the way down to the bottom of the belly, take one more sip of air at the top, and then super, super slowly exhale as if you're breathing through a straw. And let's just do one more of those. Super deep inhale, filling up the belly, filling up the womb space. One more sip of air at the top. And then exhale through the mouth, super slow. And while you're keeping your eyes closed, I invite you to just conjure a memory of you as a little one. And bring your mother into the space, and just feel the energy that was present between the two of you. Maybe you're noticing a feeling of longing. Maybe you felt super supported by her. Maybe she was around often and maybe she wasn't. Just noticing without judgment. And then feeling yourself maybe in a different frame or a different moment, feeling yourself wanting her, like craving the feeling of being held by her. And see if you can feel or experience any tendrils of that energy as it pertains to your relationship with food. See if there's any familiarity or any resonance between what you seek in food and what you sought from the arms of your mother. And maybe it's not coming through right now, and maybe it is, but it's just kind of a seed that I'd like to plant. Because a huge reason so many of us reach for food as comfort or to kind of alleviate feelings of boredom or discomfort or craving nurturance or being held, it's actually deeply rooted in a wound with the mother. And it's not to say the mother was bad or that she failed. The mother was mothering in ways that she was also mothered. So blame doesn't really have much space here. But the wounds are there nonetheless. And so just kind of getting curious and bringing spaciousness and non-judgment to this connection, because it's quite prevalent and really quite charged as well. And maybe if you'd like to just kind of spend some time in there feeling what's there, maybe you'd like to come out and journal about what you found or what you noticed. And maybe bring this into your awareness next time you feel this compulsion with food. And ask yourself, what am I really needing? What am I really craving? What am I not allowing myself to feel that I'm just seeking comfort outside of me in this moment? And see what becomes available.
What are some of the long-term effects you've seen from your approach?
We'll go into a medicine session with an intention, like a very clear and refined intention around a story that may have come up. I do these kind of guided practices or visualizations all throughout the program because it's one-on-one. So I'm deeply kind of entrenched in your story and your patterning and all the things with food and relationship with mom. So I'm leading the experiences with my voice and energetically kind of guiding you to certain elements of your story or your intention. And so if something around this would be revealed in medicine, we would use that. And really, I'm great at like pulling on a thread and like having the whole frickin' thing of yarn on whatever unravel. That's kind of like my jam. So I would pull on that and we would kind of flesh out and see what's there. And usually like what needs to happen is that they need to re-experience some of the pain, some of the longing, and realize that they have the capacity to give that to themselves, which is where power really comes from. It's like, okay, I'm needing nurturance in this moment. Sure, it would feel good if my mom was here, but like, how can I support myself? How can I give that to myself to really like feel that sense of holding? I don't know if holdiness is a word, but that sense of being held. Because when you're the provider of that, no one can take that away, and you can navigate through life's fucking storms and everything in between.
What would you tell people who are on the edge about trying your method?
I would encourage them to speak to women who have gone through the program and really hear like live or real testimonials. But it's not for the faint of heart. I'm not even gonna pretend. It's for people that are ready to look and to dig in the roots. I mean, that's what we're here for, is really uprooting these patterns, and that are wanting transformation but are so sick of dieting. It's not about the next diet, I promise you. And I'm a dietitian. Like, it's not about that. It's about what's driving the behavior around food, and that's deeply rooted in trauma. And so with a gentle approach and tons of compassion, that's what I'm here for.
What are some of your best case studies?
I had a woman recently, she's 35 years old. She's been bulimic since the time she was 9. And around that time, her mother passed away, and her mother was epileptic and had serious epilepsy. And so every time her mom would go into an episode, there would be like tension and constriction and just, so much tension in the household. And then there was like this relief because she would recover and everything would be back to normal. And then it was like they would wait for it again. And in this ketamine experience, this woman realized that she was mimicking the same cycles with her bulimia. That it was like all this mounting tension and then the release. And then all this mounting tension and the release. So she saw that so profoundly. She was visited by her mother. Oh my God, it was so profound. And saw that like she can get herself out of this loop. That there's grieving to be done, which I'm supporting her with, and in the passing of her mom, that she was still kind of, looping around since the time she was 9 years old. But now there's a way out of this pattern.
What is your personal story with this work?
I had an eating disorder since the time I was 3. I found candy at a very young age and would spend time dissociating in the garden, which is why my program is called The Garden, because it saved my life. And would just use food to dissociate and numb myself, and I had no idea why, because I didn't have a reference point of life prior to that pattern. And I knew like I was suffering so badly. I checked myself into treatment center when I was 22 years old. Like I just couldn't find a way out until I found ayahuasca. And my story of sexual abuse was revealed to me, and it changed everything. And so psychedelics have been like such powerful tools, teachers, allies to help people see their story. But then once you can see your story, you can begin to move through it and heal from it and understand the patterns and where they develop from and how to meet those needs, because we're all just trying to meet needs. It's just the ways that we learned were effective when we were little, but aren't effective anymore. And there are other ways.
What were your symptoms?
I was bulimic and I had binge eating disorder. So my gut was a complete disaster. I was overweight, I was inflamed. I was diagnosed with a thyroid condition at 25 years old. I mean, I was a mess. And most of all, I was deeply disconnected from myself and my body. I couldn't feel anything. Anytime there was like a twinge of discomfort, I was already using food to self-soothe. There was no gap between any form of discomfort and a need to numb it. And so I lived disembodied and dissociated and miserable. And I don't live like that anymore, which is really sweet. And now I help other women get out of that, and men also out of that loop. I feel like the world needs all of us to be our truest, most clear, most integrous selves, but it really needs women to be, and women in power and empowered. And when we are siphoning so much of our power to the ways our body looks and perfectionistic and plastic surgery, which I also went through and then got out of, and it's like such a distraction. And so when we can stop that process and come back into our bodies and feel our truth and access our power, then we change the world.
Jillian Acosta's unique approach to nutrition and healing is a testament to the power of addressing the root cause of wellness challenges. Thank you, Jillian, for sharing your groundbreaking methods and insights. See you on the next Elixir session, where we uncover unconventional wellness leaders doing amazing things.